everyone, it's Corey from Linda's, and welcome back to our stream and shop sessions over the Labor Day holiday. We are having some incredible savings happening here at Linda's, and I'm so excited. Excited. You guys get me every single time with one word during my intro. I'm so excited that you are joining me tonight. I have a special guest that is going to be joining us to talk about all things needles. And from the comments that I have seen, you guys are very excited for this episode. As am I. I'm very excited. Do me a favor, drop in the chat wherever you are watching from. That way we can see all of your wonderful names pop up on the screen. We are streaming to all of our incredible platforms across Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and even on our very own website. If you're new to Stream and Shops here at Linda's, you're getting an up close and personal look with all of the products that we talk about. That way you can ask any questions that you would like about the products and get those answers real time to help make your purchase decisions even more fun. We have some incredible savings happening across our Labor Day holiday as well. So I want to go over those with you real quick if you're new to the streams and you haven't been with me over the course of the last... How many have I done? This would be my fifth one. So very excited. 5 out of 10. Super good. So we're doing 25% off of all of our Shannon fabrics. We had an incredible episode with Sheila from Shannon Fabrics earlier today. Up to 50% off of all of our batting. 30% off of Quilter Select and Floriani products. 30% off of Superior threads. 20% off of Glide and Filtech threads. 30% off of Caterpillar products, and up to 50% off of Famore products. Also, any orders over $99 in the contiguous 48 United States will get you free shipping, and any orders over $249 get you an additional $15 gift card that you can use towards your next purchase here at Linda's. You can also stack all of those savings with your Corey's Cash Points, our reward system here at Linda's, so you can keep getting rewarded for shopping with us. We truly appreciate you being with us. So I want to show you also, for those of you that are new, I know we have some new watchers popping in this evening. Where did it go? It's hiding. I don't know where it went. Oh well, I can tell you how to find it. You can hop over to our website if you would like to participate in the live shopping portion of this, meaning that the products that we're talking about actually appear in the video and you can actually add them directly to your cart so you don't ever have to leave the video. You can hop over to lindas.com, choose the live shopping section, and right there you can watch whatever's happening live, or you can scroll through and look at the rest of the calendar with those other 5 episodes that are happening. We have some really good things coming your way. So without further ado, I would like to welcome in my guest, Rhonda from SCHMETZ Needles. She is the queen of all things needles, wonderful human being, love her so much, and I'm so excited that she is joining us. Welcome, Rhonda.
Hello, Corey. I'm delighted to be here tonight.
I'm very excited that you are joining us tonight. This is going to be a lot of fun.
I hope so. Well, you know what? We will get to the point tonight.
I love that. I see people, we've got people here from Illinois, Nebraska, New York, West Virginia, South Carolina, Florida, Iowa, Texas, Minnesota, New Jersey, all over the place.
Awesome. Well, yeah,
good time tonight.
People sew around the world, so coast to coast.
Coast to coast. So, Rhonda, if you wouldn't mind, would you give a little bit of an introduction of who you are, the SCHMETZ needle brand, and then we can dive into your incredible presentation, because I know you've got some great slides for us tonight.
Right. Well, my name is Rhonda Pierce. I love to sew. I love to quilt. And, well, I've been sewing since... well, quite a long time, since I was a little kid. So sewing is not new to me. But at Thanksgiving, I'll be celebrating 20 years with SCHMETZ Needles.
Wow.
So I have to say, working with SCHMETZ Needles is not a career I ever could have planned for, but wow, I meet the nicest people. They're creative, they're friendly, they're generous, and I really love serving my sewing public. And tonight I'm here in my own home sewing room, and shouldn't everyone have an 8-foot banner of the SCHMETZ color chart?
100%. I don't know why I don't have one. I need one of those.
There you go. Oh, so anyway, well, tonight's presentation is about 45 minutes, and I will be talking about the parts of the needle. I will be talking about all those little numbers on your SCHMETZ needle pack, and then I'm going to scoot along and I'm going to talk about specific needles for piecing and quilting, sewing with knits, etc. And then the third part is a mystery question. And I'm pretty sure nearly everybody in your audience asked that question. So, okay.
Fabulous. Well, we're super excited to hear all this information that you've got. I've sat through this presentation before at H&H, and it was really, really, really informative. And I probably didn't grasp it all, so I'm excited that I get more of this. But that does bring up one thing to everybody. If you are watching this, no need to burn up your notepad taking notes. This is a video that lives on YouTube, and Rhonda also has some incredible Facebook Lives that she does with education as well. So plenty of education around this and some great free resources that will be available for you. And we'll talk about that a little later tonight.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And my mission tonight really is threefold. One is to elevate everyone's respect for the hardest working 2-inch piece of steel in your sewing machine, the SCHMETZ needle. I'm hoping to remove any mystery about the needle, like, what do all those numbers mean on the little SCHMETZ needle pack? And hopefully just increase confidence in your needle selection. So lots going on. I'm going to really bombard everyone with information, but like Corey said, you can come back to the presentation, and there's also lots of free information that or resources that I'll be sharing with you too. So.
Awesome.
Okay, well, I guess I'll go ahead and get started then. And I want to start with the parts of the needle because I believe if you're aware of the parts of the needle and their function, it helps you make an informed decision as to what needle type and size to use. So I do have my SCHMETZ demo needle. This is 17 inches tall and anatomically correct. And again, when you're aware of the parts of the needle, it helps you make an informed decision as to what needle type and size to use. Now, my needle's on a little wooden stand, but I think even virtually, you can see the very top of the needle has a beveled edge. This is referred to as the butt of the needle, and you might think, so what? What does a butt mean to me? Well, stop and think about it. When you go to insert a new needle in your machine, you don't have a lot of wiggle room. So the top of the needle's beveled for easier insertion into your machine. Our home sewing machines require a flat shank. 98% of all of our home sewing machines require a flat shank, again, for perfect positioning into your needle holder. We have a little transitional area referred to as the shoulder of the needle, and I hope you've noticed that your SCHMETZ needles have either one or two bands of color, and we'll talk about that SCHMETZ color chart behind me shortly. We have the length of the needle, which is referred to as the blade of the needle. And the size of the blade determines the size of the needle. So SCHMETZ, being a German company, they use the metric system. So they'll measure this area here of the needle, and they'll get a physical measurement like 0.70, 0.80, etc. They take that physical measurement times 100 to come up with the sizes that we're familiar with, sizes 70, 80, 90, etc. So now that you know that the SCHMETZ needle size is based on the physical measurement of the blade, it's easier to remember that a size 90 needle is larger than a size 70 needle. So I hope that helps you out a little bit. Back to the blade. On the front of your needle, how many of you have noticed the groove? And you can actually see and feel the groove on your little 2-inch piece of steel, but what's the purpose of the groove? The groove is going to cradle your thread so it moves evenly and smoothly down the length of the needle to the eye. When you're sewing, your thread should not be flip-flopping back and forth. It should move evenly and smoothly so you get a nice clean stitch. We have the point and the tip And these change according to different needle types. And on the back side of your needle, how many of you have noticed this little indentation above the eye? This is referred to as the scarf of the needle. And the scarf has a very important function. When your needle passes through your fabric and the throat plate, your bobbin hook has to come up and catch that top thread in order to create the stitch. So the bobbin hook needs passing room in order to create the stitch. So those are the basic parts to your needle. And let me see, I've got a nice slide here of your needle. And Corey, yep, there we go. Okay, so let's look at the parts of the needle. You've got the butt, the shank, the shoulder, the blade, the groove, the point, the tip, but I haven't mentioned the eye yet. And I consider the eye to be one of the most important features to your SCHMETZ needle. Your everyday needle, the universal needle, the eye is 40% the width of the blade. But look at the eye of the embroidery needle, and you can see that the eye is wider. And when you look at the eye of the top stitch in the metallic, oh, you can see that the eye is elongated. So when you're sewing, what does a larger eye mean to you? A larger eye means there's less stress on your thread as it's passing through the eye of the needle. So if you're sewing and your thread is breaking and shredding, what do you need to do? Well, you need to change your needle. And if you just started your project, maybe you need to move up a needle size or change to a different needle type that has a larger eye. So I hope I've solved one little situation. Threads that break and shred, what are you going to do? Oh, you need to change out the needle. So let's look at the SCHMETZ color chart. You can kind of date some of your SCHMETZ needles just by the bands of color. The 2 bands of color were instituted in 2014. And tonight, I want to make sure you're comfortable reading the SCHMETZ color chart. So on the left-hand side, the column is labeled needle type, and many of the SCHMETZ needle types are assigned a color. On the right-hand side, the column is labeled needle size, and each size is assigned a color. Now look at the needle between the 2 columns. The needle has 2 bands of color. The top color band identifies your needle type. So we look off to the left and we find yellow is a stretch needle. Back to the needle, the lower color band identifies your needle size. So on this sample here, the color band is kind of a rosy pink. So we look off to the right under needle size and we find rosy pink is a size 7511. So this sample here is a stretch size 7511. But let me walk you through a couple other examples. My favorite go-to needle for all kinds of sewing, piecing, etc. is a Microtex size 8012. So what would the 2 color bands be? So a top color band for Microtex, well, we look off to the left and we find Microtex is purple. And for size 8012, we look off to the right and we find 8012 is orange. So Microtex size 8012 is a top color band of purple and a lower color band of orange. Now, what if your needle has 2 bands of orange? What needle type and size would that be? Well, we look off to the left and we find orange is a jersey needle. And for the lower color band of orange, we look off to the right and orange is still a size 8012. So 2 bands of orange is a jersey size 8012 needle. Now, I've got one more thing I want to point out about the SCHMETZ color chart, and that has to do under needle type. And the very first needle listed is universal, and there's no color. In fact, the box is X'd out. So what does that mean? Universal needles have only 1 band of color, and that's to identify your needle size. So if you have a universal size 8012, you have just a single band of orange. If you have a universal size 9014, you have just a single band of blue. So I hope this SCHMETZ color chart helps you identify your needles, especially after you've taken them out of your SCHMETZ needle pack. So speaking of the SCHMETZ needle pack, let's look at all the information on your little SCHMETZ needle pack. Lots of information here. So currently at the bottom of your SCHMETZ needle pack, you find the needle size. Or on this sample here, we have assorted sizes 7010, 8012, and 9014. And I think most everyone recognizes needle size or sizes. But how many of you have looked at that number above the size and wondered, what the heck does 13705H mean? Well, don't be intimidated by that number, but it's an important number to know. In the industry, we refer to it as the needle system, but you might think of it as a model number. 130/705 means that the needle has a flat shank, and the H translates from a German word that means scarf. So needle system 130/705H is a flat shank needle with a scarf that we use in 98% of all of our home sewing machines, regardless of the brand. It could be a Bernina, a Baby Lock, a White, a Singer, a Husqvarna Viking, Foth, etc. All of these big brand home sewing machines use needle system 130/705H, a flat shank needle with a scarf. Now, if you have a serger, you might use a different needle system, and we'll talk about serger needles a little bit later. But 130/705H, a flat shank needle with a scarf that we use in most of our home sewing machines. Above the needle system, we find the needle type spelled out. So these are universal needles. Above that, you've got the SCHMETZ name, and above that, through the clear packaging, you can see the color bands. So referencing the SCHMETZ color chart, we already learned that universal needles have only one band of color, and that's to identify the needle size. So on this sample here, the two needles on the left have that single band of green for size 7010. The next two needles to the right have that single band of orange for size 8012. And the needle on the far right has that single band of blue for size 9014. So lots of information here. But let's look at one other needle pack. So again, currently at the bottom of your needle pack, you find the needle size. So these needles are size 90/14. Above that, you find the needle system 130/705H. So we know this is a flat shank needle with a scarf that we can use in most of our home sewing machines. But look at that needle system line just a little bit closer, because on this sample, we find an additional letter, a -E, E for embroidery. On some of your other needle packs, you might find a -M for microtext, Q for quilting, J for jeans, etc. So lots of information. Above that, we've got the needle type spelled out. So these are embroidery needles. Above that, even today, sometimes you'll still see the German word for needle. The SCHMETZ name above that, and again, through the clear packaging, we can see the color bands. So, referencing our SCHMETZ color chart, a top color band of red for embroidery, and a lower color band of blue for size 9014. So if you stop and think about it, not only is there a lot of information here, but there's a lot of redundant information. So I hope that all helps you out. All right, let's scoot along and let's talk about specific needles. What do you think the most popular needle type is? And I bet most of you know, or you would guess, that the universal needle is the most popular needle type. Why? Well, the universal needle has a slightly rounded point. So it works well on our woven fabrics. It works well on our knit fabrics. Plus, the universal needle is also available in the widest range of sizes, from the smallest size 60 all the way up to a size 120. Plus, universal needles are available in twin and triple needles too, so lots of variations. When I look at our sales reports and also when I do informal surveys, universal size 8012 is the most popular needle type and size, followed by universal size 9014. So no matter what kind of sewing, piecing, quilting, crafting you like to do, I always suggest you have universal size 8012 and 9014 in your stash to either use or to have as backup. Lots of choices with universal needles. All right, so let's talk about specific needles. And I'm going to guess, Corey, in your audience tonight, we have quite a few people that like to piece and quilt. So I've got 5 popular needle types for piecing and for quilting. So let's take a look at them. The first is the universal needle. Again, the workhorse of all needle types. Lots of famous quilters like to use the universal needles. Lots of everyday people like to use the universal needle. Nothing wrong with it. But I like to say with SCHMETZ, you have options. So let's look at 4 other options for piecing and for quilting. We have the jeans needle, also known as a denim needle. Does that surprise you? Well, how many of you like to make jeans quilts or flannel quilts or those heavy duty raggy quilts? And when you're working on those projects, you want a hardy needle. So what's so special about the jeans needle? The jeans needle has an optimized blade or a reinforced blade. So what's that mean? When you're working with the jeans needle and denser or lots of different layers of fabrics, there's less needle deflection when the needle pierces through your fabric. So the jeans needle is a great needle choice when you're working with a denim quilt, flannel quilt, or those heavy duty raggy quilts. And I'll also just mention, if you like to make those popular coiled bowls, you know what? The jeans needle is up to the task. All right, another needle popular for piecing and quilting is the top stitch needle. And if you remember that diagram about the eyes of the needle, the top stitch needle has an elongated eye. So there's less stress on your thread as it's passing through the eye of the needle. The top stitch needle, just like that universal needle, has a slightly rounded point. So it works well with a variety of projects, and people like to use the top stitch for both piecing and for quilting. Another needle popular for piecing and quilting, just as the name suggests, is the quilting needle. But you can use this for piecing too. This needle was specifically engineered for piecing and for quilting. It has a special tapered point specifically designed for piecing and for quilting. It comes in 2 sizes. So you'll probably use the smaller size 7511 for the piecing of your project and the larger size 9014 for the quilting of your project. And that leaves one other needle type popular for piecing and for quilting. And I'm not presenting these in any specific order, but we've got the microtex needle, generically known as a sharp needle. So when your books and patterns say use a sharp needle, what they're referring to is a SCHMETZ microtex needle. The microtex needle has a very slim acute point. Very slim acute point. So with a microtex needle, you get the most precise stitches. And because the microtex has that very slim acute point, guess what? your microtex needle is going to dull quicker than any other needle type. So have a little stash of microtex handy so you can switch them out. The other thing I'll mention about microtex is how many of you like to sew, piece, or quilt with batik fabrics? I love batik fabrics. And even if you pre-wash your batik fabrics, oftentimes they'll still be tightly woven and they can still have dye residue. And that microtex can just stitch beautifully through your batik fabrics. So, for review, 5 popular needle types for piecing and for quilting. We've got the universal needle, the workhorse of all needle types. We've got the jeans needle with that optimized blade, so there's less needle deflection when you're working with heavier fabrics. We've got the top stitch needle with that elongated eye, so there's less stress on your thread as it's passing through the eye of the needle. We've got the quilting needle, specifically engineered for piecing and for quilting. It has a special tapered point. You'll probably use the smaller size 7511 for piecing and the larger size 9014 for quilting. And last but not least is the microtex needle, generically known as a sharp needle. When you're looking for precision stitches, the microtex is up to the task. And use the microtex for your batik fabrics. So guess what? Corey has all of these already bundled up for you. 1 pack of each of these needles with a handy little luggage tag with the SCHMETZ color chart and the ever popular SCHMETZ ABC Pocket Guide, which, by the way, is the foundation for today's class, or I should say tonight's class. So, Corey, do you want to talk about how they can get their hands on these this bundle?
Most definitely. So, you guys, you can head over to our website, lindas.com, and we have these bundles preset for you. Or if you're taking advantage of the live shopping feature on our website right now, they're at the bottom of your screen and you can add them directly to your cart. But it has that full bundle. And Rhonda, I just want to go overhead real quick. I know you showed the picture of it, but I want to go overhead and just show them that it comes with all of these beautiful things that she just got done speaking about. Love the ABC guide. And then this is so handy. I keep this on my machine bag when I go anywhere, just so I always know what size needle and all the information that I need for those needles. So this bundle is absolutely incredible.
Yeah. And you know what, Corey, I'll also just mention I meet the nicest people because of that SCHMETZ color chart. I use it on my briefcase, and people will come up to me at the airport or car rental parking lots and ask, "Do you sew?" And now we'll have a sewing conversation. So it is handy. But I also have one hanging on my bulletin board, so you can put it on your machine too.
Fabulous.
Okay, well, let's scoot along. Corey, you want to bring up the next slide? All right, so we're going to talk about another group of needles. We're going to talk about sewing with knits. How many of you like to sew with knits? Well, when I first learned to sew with knits, it was with double polyester. How many of you remember double polyester? Well, knits have come a long way since then. And when you're sewing with knits, there are 2 needle types you must have when you're sewing with knits. And the first is the jersey needle, generically known as a ballpoint needle. The jersey needle has a medium ballpoint. The other needle that you need in your stash when you're sewing with knits is a stretch needle. And guess what? The stretch needle also has a medium ballpoint. But when you compare the stretch and the jersey needle, the stretch needle has a smaller eye and a deeper scarf. So now your stretch needle is going to play just a little bit differently with your thread, your fabric, your machine, and your technique. So if you're sewing with knits, well, how do you know? Do you use a stretch or a jersey needle? There's a rule of thumb that's going to work about 80% of the time. If you're working with just a regular knit fabric, use the jersey. But if your knit fabric has lycra, spandex, or elastic, and most of our modern knit fabrics today do, you want to use the stretch needle. The other thing I want to mention about the stretch needle is how many of you like to sew, piece, or quilt with cuddle fabric or minky? And I know Sheila was on earlier today and talked about cuddle and minky, and I like to think I'm the cuddle queen. I've made vests and coats and quilts with cuddle fabric, and stretch size 9014 is your needle of choice when you're working with cuddle fabric. So stretch 9014 for your cuddle and minky is going to make a huge difference. I'll also just mention, if you've been intimidated to work with minky or cuddle, you need to be very aggressive in your pinning. And I always pin parallel to my stitch line and also perpendicular to my stitch line. And I also try to remember to remove the pins before I stitch over them. So again, part of the success of sewing with cuddle and minky, which is ever so soft and plush, and it has a tendency to move. So pin aggressively, and that stretch 9014 is going to make a huge difference in your sewing success. So if you're sewing with knits, the two needles that you must have in your stash is the jersey needle and the stretch needle. Sometimes stretch and jersey are interchangeable, but not always. So again, the rule of thumb is if your knit fabric has lycra, spandex, or elastic, you want to use the stretch needle. If it's just a regular knit, use the jersey needle. So Corey, do you want to show a picture of the bundle?
Most definitely. So let me swap that over. And then, guys, I see your questions coming in. We're going to get to those momentarily. We're not leaving you out. But this is that bundle. This is the Sewing with Knits bundle. So you have the jersey needle and then 2 packages of the stretch, the ABC guide, and then, of course, that wonderful color chart.
Yeah. And I'll just mention on that jersey needle, it has assorted sizes. And then the stretch, so you've got 70, 80, and 90 on the stretch needle. You've got 1 pack or 5 needles of size 75, 11, and 1 pack of size 90, 14. So you can play with the different sizes.
Awesome.
Okay.
So, Rhonda, do you want to do questions now or do you want to wait till the very end?
Are there any questions about the parts of the needle or needle sizes?
Right now it's more kind of specific
Okay.
things on like thread types and stuff. So you want to hold that to the
Yeah,
end?
let's wait till the
Okay.
end. Okay.
Okay.
So let's go along with the next slide. And we're going to talk about the super nonstick, super universal needle. How many of you know about this special needle? This needle was introduced right before the pandemic. So if you don't know about it, I'm glad you're here tonight. So let's take a look at it. The first thing you're going to notice about this needle is the color. It's kind of a gunmetal color or charcoal gray. And what is that? It's an anti-adhesive coating. I can't use that T word that we find in our pots and pans in the kitchen, but that's what it is, an anti-adhesive coating. But this needle also has 2 other special characteristics. Like that jeans needle, the super nonstick, super universal needle has an optimized blade, so there's less needle deflection when your stitch is made. And the super nonstick, super universal needle also has an enlarged eye. So there's less stress on your thread as it's passing through the eye of the needle. So 3 great characteristics to this needle. When are you going to use it? Well, how many of you like to do machine embroidery or machine applique? This is a great needle to use because when you're doing those projects, oftentimes you're working with a stabilizer with an adhesive. And what happens to that adhesive? You're stitching so fast that adhesive has a tendency to warm up and gum up your needle. So you'll get more stitching time with the super nonstick, super universal needle. If you like to sew on splash fabric or oilcloth, this is a great needle to use. And what about vinyl? Don't we all sew on vinyl at least occasionally? And what happens when you sew on vinyl with a regular needle? The vinyl gets warm and then has a tendency to hug your needle. Now you can't see where you're sewing. So the Super Nonstick Super Universal will resist the vinyl from hugging your needle. Another application would be hoop and loop tape or Velcro, which I always think is an odd fabrication because it's sticky on one side, crispy on another, and kind of fuzzy in between. And this needle can just stitch through all those fabrications. If you like to make collage quilts or landscape quilts, this is a great needle to use because oftentimes you're working with a fusible or maybe a spray adhesive. So the Super Nonstick Super Universal can just stitch beautifully. So this needle comes in 4 sizes, sizes 70, 80, 90, and 100. When this needle was first introduced right at the beginning of COVID, size 100 became so popular, and it's still very popular. And I'm saying, what's going on in our world where a size 100 would be so popular? Well, you know what? People have been making tote bags, handbags, purses, all kinds of carry-on things, and and going through lots of foams and sticky stabilizers and vinyls, etc. And that size 100 in the Super Nonstick Super Universal is really up to the task. You'll probably use the smaller size 70, 10, 80, 12, 90, 14 for machine embroidery and other uses, but this is a great sampler pack, 1 pack of each of the 4 sizes, again, with that handy little SCHMETZ color chart and the ever popular SCHMETZ ABC pocket guide. So Corey can show you the actual bundle. They'll probably arrive to you already with a little rubber band. So you just remove that rubber band and you'll find them bundled up on your little luggage tag.
Just a wonderful set here. We have a great comment from our website. One of our website viewers says that she loves these for her picture quilts.
Oh, okay. There you go. Yeah, lots of uses. Yes.
And then
Awesome.
another question that we have, Rhonda, and this is a little bit more kind of overall instead of specific, is how do you know when to change your needle?
Oh my. You know what? I'm going to answer that. We'll come to
Okay,
that. Don't worry.
we'll
I
come to
will
that.
answer that question.
Okay.
All right. We've got
Um,
2. Oh,
and then real quick, would you use the nonstick needle with fusible applique or embroidery needle?
absolutely. Anytime you're working with a fusible or something sticky or a spray adhesive, I would start with that Super Nonstick Super Universal needle. Absolutely.
Yes. Cool.
Okay, we've got 2 more categories. Let's scoot along. And machine embroidery. So I'm guessing there are quite a few people that like to do machine embroidery, and I've got 3 needles that are popular for machine embroidery. And the first is our classic embroidery needle. If you remember that diagram about the eyes of the needle, the embroidery needle has an enlarged eye. So there's less stress on your thread as it's passing through the eye of the needle. The embroidery needle also is available in titanium. And titanium gives the needle extra strength. And titanium helps to keep the needle a little bit cooler. So just like the classic embroidery needle, this needle too has an enlarged eye. Both the classic embroidery and the embroidery gold have that enlarged eye, and both needles are available in 2 sizes, the smaller size 7511 and the larger size 9014. The other needle that's fantastic for machine embroidery, and we already talked about it, is the Super Nonstick Super Universal needle. Again, it has that anti-adhesive coating, that optimized blade, so there's less needle deflection, and that enlarged eye, so there's less stress on your thread as it's passing through the eye of the needle. So this is a great sampler pack where you can try all 3 different needle types and sizes. And Corey, I have to say, The holidays are coming up, and these make great gifts for all of our sewing buddies. So they're great sampler packs for everyone, but they make great gifts too. So okay, so you want to show the actual little pack?
Of course. So here is the one. Now, this is the rubber band that Rhonda was talking about. They come like this, nice and rubber band up for you. But you've got the embroidery needles, embroidery gold, the super nonstick,
Yep.
the ABC pocket guide, and the wonderful color chart as well.
Yep. Yep. So a nice little bundle. All right. Well, let's talk about the last bundle of needles that we have here tonight. And I'm going to guess that there are more than a few people in the audience that have a serger. So let's talk a little bit about serger needles. So some of our sergers, you can use a regular home sewing machine needle. And some of our sergers actually require a specific needle system, ELX 705. So at the beginning of tonight's presentation, I talked about needle system 130-705H as being a flat shank needle with a scarf that we use in our home sewing machines. So on your serger, how do you know what needle system to use? What you're going to do is to open up that little front cover of your serger machine, and you'll oftentimes find a little sticky or an imprint that will tell you the recommended needle system. ELX 705 is frequently recommended. ELX 705 looks like a regular home sewing machine needle. It has a flat shank and a scarf. But the difference is that ELX 705 has a second groove on the backside of the needle, and some of your specialty serger stitches require that second groove in order to catch the thread in the loopers. So how do you know what needle system to use? Well, I have a serger, and when I open up the front cover, it says use ELX 705. But I know from my serger expert friends, because I have a few of those, they say, well, Rhonda, for some of your simple serger stitches, you can use a regular home sewing machine needle. So I might use a universal or a stretch or a top stitch, etc. But when my stitches start to become wonky, or if I'm working with a specific overcast stitch, then I will switch to ELX 705, and that takes care of any wonky stitches that I might have. So ELX 705 is a serger needle. Do not use this in your sewing machine, but you use this in your serger. It comes in two sizes 80-12 and 90-14. So Corey has this bundled up just like the other bundles with the ABC pocket guide and the luggage tag, and you get 2 packs of each size. So 2 packs of size 80-12 and 2 packs of size 90-14. So if you've got a serger, check out your needle system. Corey, you can bring up your picture so they can see what they've got there.
I'm gonna actually stick with the picture that we have. Apparently, my overhead camera has decided to go to sleep.
Oh, okay. No problem. So let Corey know that you want these. As he mentioned, he's got the links on Facebook, etc. So, all right. Well, we have just covered a lot of needles. Is your head swimming? Well, let's keep going, because let me look at the time. Time is moving right along here. So I want to talk about the most frequently asked question. This is part 3. And Corey, one of your customers already asked it. And that is, how long does a needle last? Well, here's the easy answer. Needles don't last forever. And when you're sewing, your needles should never, ever look like these. These are really nasty looking needles. That needle on the far left looks like it has twin mountain peaks. The needle on the far right looks like a cutting blade. So what are these nasty needles going to do to your beautiful fabrics? They're just going to eat up your fabric. So what are you going to do? Change out the needle. Changing the needle is a simple repair that you can do at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. That seems to be when I do most of my sewing. Anybody else do sewing at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning? Anyway, so have a little stash handy. So this is one of my favorite slides in tonight's presentation. This is the same needle in every frame. But when you look at it on the left-hand side with your naked eye, it looks sharp, right? But with increased magnification, oh, you can see this needle really is dull. And look at that needle on the far right-hand side. It's got that super lip. It's dull, and look at all those burrs and striations. So what's this nasty needle going to do to your beautiful fabrics? Yep, it's going to pucker, tear, and just create a little mess for you. So what are you going to do? Change out the needle. So needles do get dull with use. So how long does a needle last? Okay, Corey, I can come back on when you're ready. How long does a needle last? I'm going to say, I don't know. It could be 3 seconds if you hit a pin right away. And when you hit a pin, I know your first thought is, oh my goodness, I just bent the needle. And maybe you did. But I guarantee if you just hit a pin, what you did is you just compromised the point and the tip. So what are you going to do? Change out the needle. Maybe you can get 20 hours of sewing time if you don't push or pull your fabric underneath your foot. So 3 seconds, 20 hours. I know that's quite the time range. And I know people like to say, oh, I change my needle every 6 to 8 hours of sewing time. And I say, bravo. But how do you really know? I've tried to time myself multiple times and it's impossible. Our phones go off. A kid comes by, a cat might come by and swat something off. So rather than ask, how long does a needle last? What I want you to do is to reframe that question too. What are the clues to changing the needle while you're sewing? So we kind of talked about one clue already, and that's when your thread is breaking and shredding. But what you might not know is if you're not changing your needle frequently enough, the thread actually creates or wears a groove in the eye of the needle, and that's going to break and shred your thread. So what are you going to do? Change out the needle. When you're sewing, what's happening to your fabric? Is your fabric puckering? Is the needle snagging your fabric? Is the needle damaging your fabric? Or in a severe case, the needle hits your fabric and tucks the fabric into your throat plate. Hello, those are clues that you need to change out the needle. When you're sewing, what's happening to your stitches? Are your stitches skipping? Are your seams uneven? Or maybe you're sitting at your machine and you're saying, well, I'm sewing in a straight line. How come my stitches are wiggly squiggly? Hello, it is time to change out your needle. And then there's one other clue. Hopefully when you're sewing, you're in that bubble. All is right in my sewing world. My machine is humming along. And then you start to hear that little click, click, clicking sound. And what is it? It's your needle saying, hey, I've been working hard here. Change me. If you ignore the clicking, it graduates to a pop, pop, popping sound. Now your needle is yelling at you, change me, change me. And if you ignore the clicking and the popping, what's happening now? Clunk, clunk, clunk. And what's your first inclination? Oh my goodness, something's wrong with my machine. And even if you take your machine into the tech, what's the first thing the tech's going to ask you? Hey, when's the last time you changed your needle? So today I'm not here just to sell you more needles, but I really want you to have a wonderful sewing experience, and that includes changing out the needle. So let's just stop and think about it. You've spent a lot of money on your machine or your machines. How many of you have more than 2 machines? Or you've spent a lot of money collecting all those beautiful fabrics including the secret fabric stashes. And what about all those beautiful threads? Yep, threads in different colors, different weights, different manufacturers, etc. You spent a lot of money on books and patterns, lectures, workshops, retreats. And what about your time? Your sewing time, your stitching time is an investment too. So, what are we going to do here? We're going to take that entire investment cycle that starts with your machine, to your fabric, to your thread, to your time, right down to the hardest working 2-inch piece of steel in your machine, which, by the way, is the least expensive part to your machine, and just change out the needle. So again, I'm not here just to sell you more needles, but if you're going to make that big investment, hello, let's change out the needle. Okay. So I know that in the real world, we oftentimes juggle projects, right? You might be working on a quilt. Now you've been asked to make a little t-shirt for a kiddo. So you change your needle type and size. You finish that little t-shirt for a kiddo. You give it away, they're happy, and you come back to that project, and let's just say it's a quilting project. And before you put that needle back into your machine, you think, I didn't get a lot of stitching time before I switched projects. How do you know that that slightly used needle is still sewing worthy? You can take your slightly used needle and run it across your fingernail. If it leaves a scratch on your nail, you've got a burr and you need to toss that needle. Or if you've got a pair of old hose, or maybe a jersey fabric or a sample of a knit fabric, run your slightly used needle over your hose or your knit fabric. If it snags, you know you've got a burr and you need to toss out that needle. So how do you keep track of all those slightly used needles? How many of you have slightly used needles? I do. So I've got a product for you. Many of you are familiar with the Grab It magnetic pin cushion. These are in sewing rooms around the world. I like this product so much that over 10 years ago, we actually bought the Grab It Sewing Tool Company. And one of their non-magnetic products, is the Grab It My Pad Needle Organizer. So this is what it is. This is what you find in the store, and this is a great way to organize your slightly used needles. So what is it? Well, it's a 7.5-inch square of extra thick felt. And during COVID, I updated this using the SCHMETZ color chart. So green for quilting, purple for microtext, etc. And then within each needle type, there's a cell of the different needle sizes. So for your slightly used needle, you just slide it into the appropriate needle type and size. It comes with a little flower head pin. Because how many of you have some older SCHMETZ needles, maybe that you inherited from mom or grandma, and they weren't exposed to dust or moisture, so they're still sewing worthy, but they don't have the color code, the color bands. So once you take that needle out of the package, you can use this flower head pin to identify the needle currently in your machine. You just slide the flower head pin into the appropriate needle type and size. The flower head pins come in a variety of color. Doesn't matter what the color is, but it's important that you use it so you can identify your needle. Now, since I'm in my own home sewing room tonight, I'm going to show you what my pad looks like. This is an older version. This was pre-COVID, but you can see I've been testing a lot of twin needles. You can see that I had an older needle that I used the flower head pin, jersey size 9014. It's identified. Microtext size 8012 is my favorite go-to needle. So I keep this little Grab It My Pad leaning against my light source right next to my sewing machine, so it's always handy. So Corey has these available, and I believe he has the link right there in your in your on your screen. So Corey, can you bring me back up to this share my screen, because I have a better picture for everybody to share. So this is what the MyPad looks like, and Corey has these for you, and you can find that link in tonight's presentation. But let's scoot along. We're coming up at the top of the hour. There is lots of information that's available at SCHMETZneedles.com, but where are you going to buy your needles? Yeah, you're going to get them right there from Corey at lindas.com. And he's got that special for you on all those bundles. But I want to quickly walk you through our website, because there's a wealth of free information that you can tap into. This is our consumer site, SCHMETZneedles.com. When you get home later tonight or after tonight's presentation, I want you to test yourself. Using the SCHMETZ color chart, identify these needle types based on the SCHMETZ color chart. So I've mentioned more than once that Microtech size 8012 is my favorite go-to needle. So I have it right there front and center with that top color band of purple and the lower color band of orange. Take note of where that red star is, because that's where all the free information is at resources. If you go down further on our homepage, you'll find What Needle Am I? And this is the cover to the SCHMETZ ABC Pocket Guide that Corey has with each of the SCHMETZ bundles. And the needles on the cover of the ABC Pocket Guide are identified. So whether you look at the cover of the ABC Pocket Guide or you're looking right here online at these needles, I want you to take some time and look at the points, the tips, and the eyes of these 12 needles, because sometimes the differences are ever so slight, but it can be very powerful. And by the way, Universal is right there at 9 o'clock. Right there to the right, we've got that red star where it says free web app. So guess what? The Little SCHMETZ ABC Pocket Guide, if you can't wait to get your hands on the physical version with each of the bundles, you can download it for free. You'll see that red star at the bottom, SCHMETZ free web app on our resources page. You click that, you'll see 3 little dots, and you can add it to your Android, your Apple, or your Google phone. Because it's a web-based app, it works with all the different formats. So what is in the free app? Well, just like the print version, the information, a lot of the information that you've seen here tonight are in the print version and also in the digital version. The back inside cover of the ABC Pocket Guide, you're going to find a listing of over 70 fabrics alphabetically listed with recommended needle types and sizes. But guess what? In the digital version, you're going to find over 100 fabrics listed. So if you've been curious about sewing with cork or bamboo, they're listed with recommendations for needle type and size. The SCHMETZ color chart is there for easy reference. And then also we have links to some of the popular thread companies, because each company for each of their different types of threads have recommendations for needle type and sizes. And to tell you the truth, even I can't keep them all straight. So the app makes it quite handy. So I think here, so download the app. Again, it doesn't matter, Android, Apple, or Google. It works with all the different formats. I invite you on the first Wednesday of every month, which, well, for September was yesterday at noon Central. I do go live with Q&A if I'm in the Chicago office. I think in November I'm going to be in Wisconsin, so I'll have special guests. So I invite you to join me on Facebook, YouTube, or on our website for Q&A, etc. And you can find out more about the SCHMETZ snippets when you get the SCHMETZ newsletter. Just go to SCHMETZneedles.com, and after about 20 seconds, you get a pop-up that says sign up for the newsletter. So I encourage you to do that. My name is Rhonda Pierce, and I represent SCHMETZ Home Sewing Machine Needles in North America. I do have a personal website, sewmorestitches.com. I'm not selling anything. And to tell you the truth, during COVID, I was blogging quite frequently with the different projects, quilt, garments, and smaller crafts. So you could go in and click 2020 sewing, 2024 sewing, and see the different projects that I've made over the years. I'm traveling now, so guess what? I'm not really blogging, but you can learn more about me. Okay, so this concludes tonight's presentation, and I know Corey said that there were a couple questions. You can bring me back, Corey. I see Pat has asked a question about a needle that makes a hole in the fabric that she could use, or that Pat could use with a crochet hook or for crochet edging. So I think what you're talking about is a hem stitch needle. A hem stitch needle, and let me just bring it up real quick here in the ABC Pocket Guide on page 46, is a needle with little wings. Let me show you a picture right here. Here it is. It's super wide. What it is it's a basic needle, but during the production of the needle, when they create the eye of the needle, they use a dye and excess steel oozes out. For most of our needles, that excess steel is ground down and refined. But for the hem stitch needle, they leave those wings out. And those wings are refined. And then we use the hem stitch, also known as a hem stitch needle, on loosely woven and sometimes up to medium woven fabrics to create a little hole that sometimes we can use for crochet. Hem stitch needle is also frequently used for heirloom sewing, but certainly if you're you should experiment with some of your quilting, especially if you're working with loosely woven fabric. So that's the hem stitch needle. It comes in two sizes, the size 100 and also 120. When you're working with the hem stitch needle, you need to make sure that your throat plate is wide enough. The hem stitch needle also comes in a double hem stitch, which is a hem stitch needle partnered up with a universal needle. So you can make a really interesting stitch with the twin hem stitch needle. So very good question. Okay, so Corey asked earlier about thread. And let me just give you my rule of thumb on what needles size to use with thread. So 40 weight thread is the most popular weight of thread for all kinds of sewing. Throughout the industry, 40 weight thread is the most popular weight of thread, no matter what the brand is. Generally, for 40 weight thread, I generally use a size 80-12 needle. So that's my benchmark, a 40 weight thread with an 80-12 needle. Now, if I'm going to be working with a heavier weight thread, well, now I know I need to size up to at least a size 90-14, or if it's an even heavier thread, to go up to a size 100 or larger. So my benchmark is 40 weight thread with an 80-12 needle. So if I'm working with a 50 weight thread or something finer, I will size down to maybe a 75-11 or a 70-10, etc. So use that as a benchmark. It seems to work well. Again, you have to remember that sometimes our machines have personalities, and we work with different threads, different fabrics. So what works for me may not work for you or your sewing buddy. So it's good to have a variety of needle types and sizes on hand so you can make the best choice for your specific project. Okay.
So Rhonda, if you wouldn't believe it, my cameras decided they were tired. So now I'm streaming on my phone. So
Oh,
it's down here at a completely different angle, but it's completely fine. We're good. Everything's
I
fine.
see you.
I know I was gone there for a minute, but I've been listening to all the incredible information. We have a few questions on the website. What needle would you recommend for metallic thread?
For metallic thread, okay, I'm going to give you an insider tip. SCHMETZ does have a metallic needle. And if you remember that diagram about the eyes of the needle at the beginning of the presentation, the top stitch and the metallic needles have that elongated eye. So there's less stress on your thread as it's passing through the eye of the needle. Now, here's the little inside information. And I don't mean it as inside, but it's not widely known. The top stitch needle and the metallic needle are the very same needle, just two different names. So if you're working with metallic thread and you don't have a metallic needle, but you got top stitch, hey, you're okay. Use that top stitch needle. Another needle option would be to use that super nonstick, super universal needle. And again, you need to test because we work with different fabrics, different threads. Our machines have personalities and we have different techniques. So see what works best for you.
Fabulous. Another question on thread. I'm assuming it'd probably be the same needle, but what needle would you recommend for a monofilament thread?
Monofilament, you kind of have to experiment. Monofilament is very small, very fine. I tend to like a microtex needle. And again, you want to experiment. If that thread is breaking for you, maybe try a top stitch needle or that super nonstick, super universal, the smallest size, 7010. So again, you need to test. My first choice is 7010 microtex, but give it, and same way with invisible thread. I would probably start with a microtex needle for that invisible thread. I see that Vicky's asked that question.
Awesome. So also, can these needles, I'm assuming the piecing quilting bundle, but can these needles be used in a high-speed straight stitch machine such as a Burnett 08 or a Janome HD9?
Well, I'll tell you, every machine, okay, let me say, I don't know.
That's okay. That's okay.
Every machine company has one or two specific models that require the HLX5 or a high-speed needle. So you need to get your owner's manual out or talk to Corey or your machine dealer and find out. Or if you don't have the owner's manual, go online and look it up. Sometimes you can use a regular home sewing machine needle, but you need to test it. The high-speed needle, the shank is just a little bit shorter. So it's going to be a little bit different experience. So I can't give you a blanket yes. So you're going to have to do a little bit of research on your part. So very good question. I'm sorry I can't answer it totally.
For sure. It's all good. All good. We have a question on Instagram. Which needle would you use for free motion on a domestic machine? Free motion quilting.
Well, you've got options. For free motion, now you've got the quilting needle, which was specifically designed for quilting, so that 90-14 quilting. If you're working with fusibles, I would start with a super nonstick, super universal, probably a size 90, or depending on the layers, you might want to size up. Some people like to use top stitch, and some people like to use universal. So at the beginning, that first bundle called Piecing and Quilting is a great sampler pack. And so you can test, because all of our machines are a little bit different. They all work well, but they might have a little personality, just like we do. They like certain threads or certain colors, and they might like certain needle types and sizes. So test things out. The other thing I'll mention about that piecing and quilting bundle is, wow, it's really a great general sewing bundle too. So if you do garment sewing, that certainly applies to that too. But I know our audience probably has a lot of people who like to piece and quilt. So, okay.
And then last but not least, any tips or tricks or tidbits on double eye needles?
Oh, I see. Beverly has just asked that. A double eye needle. Well, how many of you know about the double eye needle? We have the double eye needle right here on the cover of the ABC Pocket Guide at 8 o'clock. So it's a universal needle with two eyes, one right on top of each other. So you're going to use the double eye needle for embellishing. You're going to use two spools of thread. They can be the same color, they could be different colors, they could be different types of threads. I say keep it simple in the beginning. Use two different colors so you can see. When you work with the double eye needle, you get kind of a textured or shaded stitch because you don't really know where that top stitch is going to fall. Is it going to fall to the left or to the right or set right on top of that bottom stitch? So again, you get kind of a textured or shaded effect. My suggestion when you work with the double eye needle is that you need to just start with the straight stitch. Keep it really simple and elongate your stitch. The other suggestion is reduce your sewing speed. Don't be a speedster. Reduce your sewing speed. And also, when you are threading your machine, just like when you thread your machine for a twin needle, the thread should come off one spool. The thread should come off the top of the spool, when on the other spool of thread, it should come off the unwind from the bottom up. That way, when your thread is making their way through the tension disc, there's less stress and the threads play better together, so you get a better stitch. So I'll be right up front with you. The double eye needle is not one of the most popular needles, but I have to say it's growing in popularity because I'm always asked about it. So if you're making a sample with the double eye needle, I want to see it. So send me pictures. So, you know what? Why shouldn't you have fun with your needles? Because sometimes, like with the top stitch needle, we might run 2 or 3 threads through the eye because it's elongated. But with the double eye needle, you get a different stitch. So have some fun with your SCHMETZ needles.
Awesome. Well, I think, Rhonda, that wraps up all of the questions that we have. This was an incredible presentation. Thank you so much for your time. It's always wonderful to hang out with you and listen to all things needles because there's so much that we can learn from it.
Absolutely. And again, there is no needle police. So you have to find what works for you. And where are you going to buy your needles? Well, listen, Corey has a great selection for you. He has those bundles, plus they have the magazines and they have the bulk needles too. So lots of choices. You want to support your local dealer, support Linda's and Corey. So Corey, thank you for inviting me here tonight, and I will see you again, I'm sure, in a few weeks at a major show.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you, Rhonda. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody, for using SCHMETZ needles. So SCHMETZ, everybody.
All right, everyone. That was our incredible presentation with Rhonda from SCHMETZ Needles. I had a great time. The camera decided to go wonky on me, so now you're looking at me on my phone. Everything's fine. We have options here. But it was incredible to learn so much about these needles and what all is encompassed in the SCHMETZ brand. So don't forget, you can find these needle bundles available on our website, lindas.com. I've got all of the five, so 5 or 6? 5 popular ones that Rhonda went over, along with this super cute my pad, so I can be able to start putting in what needle I'm using in there. And you can find those all on our website. If you're shopping on our live shopping page right now, you can easily add those straight into your cart and get those right away. Now, I will go ahead and let you guys know tomorrow, we're starting off strong again at 11 a.m. We're going to be talking about all things thread. So make sure you come back and learn all about the fiber types that we're going to be talking about with threads, text, weight, all of those different types. Bring all of your thread questions because that's the best time to get them answered. And then at 3 p.m., I'll be joined with Melody from Caterpillar as she takes us through all of the incredible Caterpillar products that are 30% off at Linda's during our incredible sale. I thank you all so much. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you next time. Bye.